I think I should have another beer first.
Yeah.
Before I continue, I'm gonna go get another beer.
100%, yeah.
I'm gonna go get another beer. No, have to sleep for a while. Can you see the logo? Sir Isaac Newton was born on January 6th, 1643. He was born in Lincolnshire, England, which is a very English sounding name. He was born premature, and his dad, who was a farmer, died before he was ever born, so he never met his real dad. And his mom remarried to a priest and moved away from him. Just moved away, left him with his grandma and said, "Hey, I'm going. Take care of my kid, and I'll see you later." Comes back after her second husband died, who was a priest. I feel like that has something to do with maybe why Isaac Newton was so religious. Maybe not, though. So, his mom comes back, and Isaac Newton's in school. They still don't know he's a genius yet, but they'll get it eventually. So, Isaac Newton's mom comes back and is like, "Isaac, you don't need to go to school. School is for losers. You gotta work on the farm. You gotta do the crops and tend the farm and feed your family, because I have these kids from this other marriage that you gotta take care of." And Isaac's like, "Whoa! I don't want to do that. They're not my kids. They're your kids. You're supposed to take care of your kids. You didn't take care of me." So he has to leave school, and he's farming, and he's like, "Mom, this is some bullshit. I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go back to school." And his mom was like, "Yo, nerd, no. You gotta keep farming." And he was like, "This is boring, and I hate it. And I hate your stupid kids. And I don't want to take care of them." And his mom was just mad and not okay with it and was like, "Tough shit, man. Just tough it out. Just, you gotta keep doing this for me." One sec. His mom is like, "No, you gotta farm." So Isaac Newton goes to his uncle, and his uncle works at Cambridge University. So his uncle is like, "Yo, your son is pretty smart, and he should be able to go to school, so he can come with me." So his mom's like, alright, the kids are all grown up now a little bit. They can farm. Isaac can go to school. Am I doing this right? I feel like I'm not doing this right.
You're doing great.
I'm gonna watch what the ones on YouTube do, because I feel like they do it differently than I'm doing it.
He also invented wireless technology. He invented the radio. Supposedly, one day, he was taking a walk in a park. I'll start working on his idea of alternating current. So Edison didn't like that. Alternating current is bad. Alternating current will only cause math.
I gotta pee.
No.
So Isaac Newton goes back to school under his uncle, under a work-study program. So the plague breaks out and everyone gets sent home. So Isaac Newton goes home. So he goes and he locks himself in his room for a year. And he's a recluse. He only stays in his room. And at this point he's just smart. And just while he's locked in his room, he does a bunch of stuff. He invents calculus, just in his room, just chilling, just inventing calculus and shit. And he's figuring out how the planets work, and he figures out that the planets are in an ellipse. That's how they orbit the sun. And he figures out a bunch of other stuff. He figures out how light works. That white light is a combination of all colors of light, and he fucks around with this prism, and you can see the rainbow. And they always show it to you in like middle school. Can I sit up? Should I sit up?
Yeah.
I think it would look better if I sit. You know, he's home from the plague, and he's a curious dude. He's smart. So one day he's like, I wonder how an eye works. So instead of Googling it like a normal person, instead of just trying to figure it out, he decides he needs to look around and see for himself. He needs to see how an eye works. There's a pun in there, but I'm not sure what it is. Grabs a knife or like this pin thing and just sticks it in his own eye, and he starts cutting around. And he's feeling, he sticks his finger a little bit in there, and he's feeling around, and he feels these little cones and rods, and he feels all this shit, and he diagrams how an eye works. And then the plague's over, and he goes back to Cambridge. He's not like an exceptional student, he didn't receive any honors, but he graduated Cambridge, which is still pretty cool. He goes back to Cambridge to teach. And so he's teaching at Cambridge. He teaches his class on optics till he writes this paper with this guy. And this guy who's really well known already and really like kind of like a big dude. So he starts to get some recognition. He joins the Royal Society, where they're like, yo, you should publish your papers on light and optics and eyes and stuff. So he publishes a bunch of papers on a bunch of different topics, and people in the Royal Society are like, yeah, he's pretty smart, he's good, he's A-okay. Except for this one guy named Robert Hooke, who's just like, no, like, Isaac Newton is a douchebag. I hate Isaac Newton. He's an idiot. And Isaac Newton's like, yo, like, hey, like, don't stop. Why you like disagreeing with all my theories and like just not recognizing my genius? And Robert Hooke's like, 'cause you're stupid and I hate you. And Robert Hooke's just like bashing him, and he doesn't feel like he's got the support of the rest of the Royal Society. And then his mom dies, which like, so he just becomes an isolationist, and he does the thing like he did during the plague where he just locks himself in his room thinking, and he comes up with his laws, gravity, planetary motion works, and all kinds of stuff. And the story that even he told, but probably isn't true, he got kicked out of a Royal Society meeting, and he was sitting under an apple tree, and an apple just falls on his head, and he's like, hey, where did this apple come from? And that's how he figures out gravity. Most people, they don't think that's true, so I always like to think it happened some other way, where he's like doing something weird that he doesn't want to tell anybody about. I don't know, like jumping on the bed or something. And at this point, everyone's like, Isaac Newton, you are a genius. You're the best. And his old enemy, Robert Hooke, is like, Isaac Newton, I still hate you. But now everyone's like, Robert Hooke, you suck. We like Isaac more than you. And Robert Hooke dies, and they elect Isaac Newton the head of the Royal Society. And he gets knighted, and everyone loves him. But he's frustrated because he's not in that big of a position of power. And he has another breakdown. and stops talking to people for a while. But instead of doing scientific discovery things, he just thinks about like religion and politics. So then he goes and lives with his niece and becomes the head of the mint in England. And he's the one that put them on the gold standard from the silver standard. Because everything's going good for him, but he is getting old and his digestive tract is failing, and he becomes more of a philanthropist, religious person. He gives lots of money to charity, and he doesn't ever get married. He doesn't talk to his friends, his old friends, or make any new friends. And then he just kind of goes a little crazy, and then he dies. He dies kind of alone, but he's still remembered today as one of the greatest thinkers. He united two very important schools of thought and kind of pioneered the scientific method, where it's